Welcome back into the room with a special agenda. Today, we are going to be discussing something that a lot of people think about but don't weigh well. Oftentimes, it happens when we are younger and it's prevalent in our day to day life, and we don't even realize it's happening or not happening. And that is creating reasonable purpose for our life. It is important that we do it in the rearing of our children, in the planning of our career, in the picking up our mate. Um, I was talking to someone recently that I love a great deal, and who was discussing how important it is to know what your intentions are and to know people's intentions when it is connected with your life. Sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to do what we don't realize we will need later, which is preparing for your life and creating reasonable, reasonable expectations and purpose. You need to know where things are headed. Oftentimes, when you're young, it's all things seem light and fun, and it doesn't get heavy until you're older. It doesn't get heavy until you're sitting in the purposes that you did not create. And so now you have a situation where you are dealing day to day with something that you did not prepare well for. It's like buying a car without driving it. When you do that and you're willing to write a check for that out or pay for it in whatever form that you plan to, you will pay forever if you choose badly. If you don't take the time to do what's necessary and know if that vehicle is going to suit your needs, if you can afford that vehicle, not just in that moment, but can you afford it later? Is this in your budget? Can you even can you afford to prepare and maintain that vehicle regularly? Can you even afford the gas or the insurance that that vehicle will need in order for you to keep it in your life? When you are preparing for your life when it comes to in the dating world, it's important that you give yourself permission to make sure that the person that you are meeting is well suited to your life. Because if you're planning to marry them, is this going to be long term and this is going to be good long term? Or are you going to commit to staying in a battle with someone without realizing that this is not who you want forever? If you are marrying this person or dating this person and you have kids, is this a person that's a kid's person? What is their temperament? Do you have special needs kids? Do you have older parents that you'll need to care for? Are they going to be willing to take and help you in those times of need? So, for creating purpose means you plan out your life and you take the time to investigate whether or not what you're expecting of the loved ones that you have or the people that you're allowing to be in your life, are those expectations reasonable? How do you create expectations even for yourself? Can you do all the things that everyone is asking of you? Can you do all the things that you need to do without assistance? I remember, we've had a discussion recently when we were discussing a friend telling me who is in the healthcare field. And she told me not having a plan is not a plan. It's not. You have to create one. And for some people, that's the hardest thing in the world to do, to sit down and map out what you need to do on a day to day basis. What is it that you need in the event that things don't go well? Who is your help? How do you help yourself? How do you give yourself permission to get help? Sometimes we want to believe, and people led us to believe that we need to be superhuman. And that also means for some people accepting behaviors from our people that want to be in our life, who we may love and care about, but not realizing what their limitations are. That doesn't mean you don't care about them, but the capacity in which you will need them, they may not be able to be there. So, in picking a job, you may have to say, I'm going to have to adjust my life circumstances in order to do this job. So, is that reasonable? Does that mean you're putting your dreams on hold? Not necessarily. It may mean you're making them more attainable. Because sometimes what we want isn't reasonable. It's not that it's not doable. Reasonable means that it will cost too much. Just like that car that I was figuratively discussing, that example was, is this going to be reasonable down the road? Is this car going to need to be repaired over and over and over? Yes, it's a Beamer, but was it in good condition when you got it? And if it is, can you maintain it? So when one has to decide, okay, if this isn't going to work, what will work? Letting yourself have permission to create what you need is something that we often don't want to do because we feel so guilty. As parents, as mates, having parents, you're having parents that may need you later and having health issues, mental health issues, knowing that you may have to make hard decisions, it's important to make those choices ahead of time before things get difficult. And it may not be discussions that one likes to have. I tried to have a discussion years ago before my mother started having any health problems, and now she has quite a few. We will not get into details of that, but we will discuss the fact that she does have some. But discuss, having that discussion and going, what would you like to happen in the event that your health gets bad? This was before anything was going on. She got so angry that we were discussing it. But sometimes no solution is not a solution because things won't remain the way we want all the time. So it's important that we create um, reasonable purpose. What are your intentions? What is it you're trying to do? Where are we going with this? It's key. And in your own personal life, having plans on how and who needs to be involved. And it's fair to look out for yourself ahead of time. You do not have to maintain uh, other people's expectations. So sometimes we forget that. We forget that the world, though we do know that it doesn't revolve around us, it doesn't revolve around them either. So if you have circumstances in which it's not working out, it's fine to make change. When you have children that are on the spectrum, most people recognize that they have a hard time transitioning. That means from one activity to another. If something has to be interrupted, sometimes it results in a meltdown. Well, how do we respond when we have to transition in life? Sometimes the people that we were close to or the activities that we were involved in, say you have children and now um, your friends don't have children and they can travel more, they can do more, or your job is offering you an opportunity for something that involves you possibly traveling. But where does that leave your family? It's not that you don't deserve an opportunity to do the things that you want to do when it comes to deciding that you do want something that you work so hard for and you deserve. You may have to tell others no to tell yourself yes. Because even if you could do it, would you be exhausted later? Would you start to pay for it with your health? because of not being able to be willing to be honest with yourself and even your friends. Those people and their life not changing, you have to be honest and say, though we love you and we've been friends a long time, I'm having to move forward into this phase of my life so that I can make sure that I continue to do what's reasonable for my family, reasonable for myself. Sometimes we get stuck there. We get stuck in not owning the fact that we own the rights to the book that we're writing, that's our life. And that we have the right to say, yeah, my friend coming in town and we used to hang, but we can't hang anymore like that because I owe myself the opportunity to go to sleep. They're on vacation. You're not. We have to give ourselves permission to not allow other people to force us into circumstances that we are not going to be okay with, that it's going to be too much for us. Over committing to do things for other people. Some people are so tired and worn down because they can't stop saying yes to other people. They're not creating their purpose. They're allowing other people to create unreasonable purpose for them. And some of the things that they are holding on to aren't healthy for themselves. Lots of people don't know that Sigmund Freud smoked for more than 20 years. Even after they removed a portion of his jaw because he had cancer and tumors in his mouth, he still was struggling with smoking. It was literally killing him. And a highly educated man whose information that he has printed, that has been published, and people who are in college are studying this daily. They're teaching it in schools. Struggle with having a reasonable expectation for himself. Even when it was killing him, he could not stop. This highly intelligent, documented individual could not stop smoking. Was that an unreasonable request? No. For his addiction, it was. He just couldn't let go of unhealthy habits. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, are our unhealthy habits of allowing other people's thought process or what we think they think of us or will think of us prevent us from saying, no, this is getting to be too much? Even if it's wearing us down, even if it's draining us, even in business, people can be draining. I had someone to help me recently that I did not realize I was requiring too much because I could have, and I eventually did reach out to the other part of the entity of the business that I needed to do because, and I thought about it. And I told my husband, I said, I'm draining them, and I didn't realize it. But then on further thought, I realized you cannot babysit all of your clients. You can't. So sometimes we have to stop ourselves from babysitting others and to be okay with being direct and saying, this is what you can do. This is what I can do. You don't have to say no, but you don't have to say yes. And what that means is, and I was talking to someone that I love earlier today, a family member, and we were discussing someone that I had spoken to and them not understanding that because I'm agreeable does not mean I'm agreeing with you. You can be agreeable and not agree to what other people want because they'll survive with or without you. They will survive with or without your opinion, and you will survive no matter what they think. You won't die from someone's opinions unless it's your doctor's and they are practicing something on you in a way in which it will harm you. So other people's opinions should not distract you from creating your purpose. It's important that we know what our purposes are and who our purposes are for. So again, today I'm going to remind everyone, it is okay to be agreeable and not agree. People often say we can agree to disagree. Well, you don't have to disagree, but I don't have to agree either. There are parts of a conversation that you can hear their opinion and understand why they think that way and know that that just works for them. And what they're doing for their life just works for them. It just doesn't work for you. It doesn't work for your family. It doesn't work for your circumstances. It doesn't work for your business. It doesn't work for your relationship. And it's important that you give yourself permission to continue to create what's necessary for you and what that will look like now and what that needs to look like later. And in creating purpose, you are creating a map of where you're going, how you're going to get there, and how long you plan to stay. Because if you allow other people to create your life purpose, you won't have the directions you need, and you won't have what you need when you get there. So it's important that we remember that daily and that we don't forget that it is key that we constantly take care of ourselves the best way we can. And in creating purpose, also, we're talking about creating it for our kids. How do you help your children create their purpose, particularly when you have special needs kids? It came to my attention that I was talking to, once again, a loved one, and we were discussing preparing your children. Oftentimes, when you have special needs children, it's not hard to slip into the role of permanent caretaker, even when they are capable of doing for themselves. We get carried away in having a standard for them and for ourselves that it is okay to change the expectations to suit what would work. Sometimes we forget that doing what work doesn't lessen the effectiveness of what needs to be done. Sometimes we have a way in which we want things done without considering the fact that while we want things done a certain way, we don't consider that we are taking the other person's privilege away from them, particularly your children or even your friends sometimes and family members. You constantly taking over and finishing stuff for them. You're putting yourself in a position where you're doing it and you're helping, but you're not helping. You're blocking them from finding their purpose, from creating their purpose, from being capable. If you always fish for someone, if you always do that, they won't know how for themselves. If their bed needs making up and they don't make it right, and you're tired of talking to them about it rather than showing them and taking those steps, even though it may be mildly aggravating, it's better for them later to learn how to do it properly so they can do it on their own. Because you can't do everything always for them just because it takes them too long to do it or they're bothering you to do it. Sometimes you have to let people do it on their own because that sometimes is the privilege, that sometimes is the favor. You are allowing them to learn. I was giving someone some information about some business opportunities and telling them what websites to look on to get grants. It's a website you can go on to fill out free grants. You just have to have your business proposal available. And in some cases, depends on the business that you're interested in doing, you have to show your due diligence by making sure you have your licenses as well that you need for the business. I was talking to someone about it. Not only did they want me to send them the information, like I'm telling you what the website to go to. You literally want me to hold your hand? I'm not doing that. Because if I want it more than you want it, and you're telling me that you can binge watch a show, but you don't have the free time to do it yourself, if that's where you are allocating your time, then that's what's important to you. What I'm talking about isn't important to you. So I'm not going to walk through it. They say in some races we don't help each other. That's not always the case. It's that you'll show up and they won't. So why am I working myself to death to create a purpose that you don't want? You say you want it, but you want me to create and do the purpose? We have to help prepare people by sometime allowing them to do it themselves. Because otherwise, you are taking their opportunity from them. When people hear no enough and they need it, they'll create yes for themselves. But as long as other people are saying yes for them and to them, if yes involves you doing it, well, yeah, it's going to be easy. But even then, they will disappoint you over and over and all the effort that you have put into it because they expected you to do everything. And when you have children that are special needs, it's not hard to, when they get frustrated, allow them to their frustrations to overwhelm you, and you do it for them. But that makes them more limited. So sometimes as parents, by not helping them create their own purpose that we know is reasonable to their abilities, and sometimes we do it by questioning their abilities and not seeing it through to see what they're capable of. We're so worried that they'll fail, we stop for them. We don't let them go for it, we stop for them. So it's really crucial that we allow them to learn that it's okay for things not to go well, but keep trying until it goes right. I remember my son used to have a really difficult time with video games. He's on the spectrum and he used to get so angry. So I started to propose to him the option of, since you are so overwhelmed that you're crying and having a meltdown, if this is too much for you, you don't have to play. This is a privilege that you don't have to exercise if you don't feel like it. If it's too much and you don't want to, I said, because if you're always winning, you're not learning anything. You have to lose to win. It's not always going to start out well. Every test you get, you won't pass, but you have to be willing to retake it until you get it. You have to be willing to study and prepare for it so that you can pass it. If you're unwilling to do that, you don't want it. And sometimes the truth in that situation is understanding that the effort you want to put in, that person's not prepared for, because it's not a reasonable purpose for them, because their purpose is for other people to do it. So until they're ready to put their effort in, you can't create something that they don't want, because you can't want it if you don't want to do it yourself. So that is our lesson today in discussing creating reasonable purpose. Thank you all for joining me. If you have any comments, please share this video as well. Please send them to me. Love you guys. Goodbye. Okay. And 10 minutes over. Okay.